Okay, participant numbers are coming up strong.
We're live, John.
Yep.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today. My name is Jessica Johnson, and I'm the Regional Director of the Kansas Small Business Development Center at Johnson County Community College. And we are so excited to have each and every one of you here with us today. For many of you, these past couple of weeks have been overwhelming and discomforting, especially since we cannot pull out our crystal ball to see when we might get a glimpse of the normalcy we experienced just a couple of weeks ago. With the passing of 3 new federal laws that are filled with a plethora of information, uncertainty has become the new normal. Many of us are still grappling at how to process and implement these rules, not only in our personal lives, but our businesses. Today, we will demystify some of your options by summarizing recent legislation to help you become more informed before you make business decisions to best suit your small business. Before we get started, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about the Kansas Small Business Development Center, as we are a resource partner of the Small Business Administration. Next slide. We operate through a cooperative agreement with the SBA and receive additional funding through the Kansas Department of Commerce and Johnson County Community College. Our mission is to increase economic prosperity in Kansas by helping entrepreneurs and small businesses start and grow through professional counseling, training, and resources across 8 regional centers in Kansas. At Johnson County Community College, we serve Johnson, Wyandotte, and Miami counties' existing small businesses, in addition to working with entrepreneurs through business conception through startup. Our individualized advising services are provided at no charge. We like to say they're prepaid with your tax dollars. At JCCC, we have 3 full-time SBDC advisors who work one-on-one with small business owners to provide confidential and comprehensive advising services. A few top areas of assistance include developing cash flow projections, exploring financing options, sources of capital, and developing a marketing plan. We also work closely with JCCC faculty, our independent consultant network, and act as a clearinghouse for resources and referrals for small businesses. Training for small business is a cornerstone of our program. We offer a variety of workshops and seminars at no or low cost for startups and existing businesses, including topics such as QuickBooks, payroll, cash flow, job costing, sales and withholding tax, marketing and social media, and strategic business planning, to name a few. A full list of our available workshops and seminars can be found through the Johnson County Community College Continuing Education website. Next slide. We encourage any of our clients out there to reach out to your advisor, or if you're seeking assistance, you can register with the Kansas SBDC office near you at www.kansassbdc.net. Next slide. Your speakers today come from the Kansas Small Business Development Center at Johnson County Community College. Together, we bring 26 years of small business advising experience, each of us stemming from differing backgrounds. My background is in government procurement, reading, understanding, and interpreting federal and local regulations to assist small business owners. I am a certified contract management professional working with businesses to leverage government procurement opportunities. John Adesi, the most tenured advisor at JCCC, harnesses his extensive management and sales experience in the public and private sectors to assist small business clients. John is a certified global business professional working with businesses in exporting their products and services. Stephanie Willis uses her corporate and small business ownership expertise as the seasoned sales, marketing, and management leader to assist small business owners. Stephanie is a certified value growth advisor, helping growing businesses increase value, especially in preparation for business transition or sales. Last but not least, Jack Harwell. He leverages over 30 years of manufacturing, distribution, logistics, and all things supply chain to assist our clients. Jack is a certified exit planning advisor working with businesses in developing a strategic exit plan. Next slide. Next slide. Today we will cover the new SBA funding programs for small business that have been passed into law, as well as additional programs available and tips for operating your small business during this crisis. We'll wrap up with a Q&A session. Next slide. Today's webinar will be recorded, and we encourage you to submit your questions throughout the webinar and vote for your favorite questions. To submit and vote on questions, use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Type in your question, or to vote on questions already asked, click on the thumbs up symbol next to that question. We will answer the questions with the most votes during this live session as time allows. Questions we do not have time to answer live will be answered offline. The Q&A transcripts, as well as the recording, will be provided to all attendees. Please note, we are only able to answer clarifying questions on the materials presented today. Next slide. This presentation is a high-level summary of the recent legislation and as current as 7 p.m. last night. We advise you to consult a qualified professional to get a comprehensive understanding of how this legislation will impact your business in the present and over the next few years before making major business decisions. Next slide. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our first presenter, Mr. John Adesi. John?
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you all for attending. The first two words on this slide, don't panic, they're as much for me as they are for you. I think it was ironic, and I think that's why they assigned me that slide. If you've been getting far too much email from the Kansas Small Business Development Center at Johnson County Community College, well, I'm the guy to blame for that, because every time something came in, we wanted to push it out as fast as possible. Every time I sent something out, 100 questions came back, and I had to remember that don't panic thing, okay? And things have changed, but they've changed for the better, I assure you, and you're gonna see some good news during this. The picture is of Allstate Insurance, and the reason I chose that is that Allstate Insurance was started in the heart of the Depression, 1930, okay, and is obviously a thriving business now. This is going to pass, okay? The Depression lasted from 1929 into World War II. This is not going to be measured in years. This is going to be measured in weeks and months, okay? So this will pass, and there are some great options to get you through this. Jack, if I could have the next slide. And so we want to add some clarity to this so that you know your options. And with the legislation that was passed on Friday, you've got about 350 billion options out there, okay? They're throwing an unprecedented amount of money at this crisis, all right? And we're going to show you over the next half an hour or 45 minutes or so what some of your options are. Jack, let's dive in with the next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to be covering some of the SBA funding programs. And don't worry, this is kind of a highlight slide, and we'll dive into each one. Now, in class, I am not a slide reader, okay? But right here, I'm sorry, we're going to go through these things kind of point by point because I don't want to leave anything out, all right? But the first one up is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and you're gonna hear that known as EIDL, okay? Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Now, the reason it says SBA Direct, typically with the SBA doesn't lend any money. The SBA guarantees loans, right? You go to your bank, and the SBA comes in, and Uncle Sam is your co-signer, basically. So it makes it a lot easier for the bank to say yes, okay? In this case, in disaster loans, you are borrowing money directly from the SBA, all right? So it's a little bit different paradigm, but it's what they do during disasters, all right? The EIDL loans are to cover your bills, all right? They're not there to replace revenues. They're not there to replace profits. They're there to pay the bills, all right? Your debt coverage, your payroll, any accounts payable that you have, your electric bill, for crying out loud, your rent. They are free. If you end up if you're on a site and someone wants you to pay to apply for this loan, you're not on the right site. And we're going to send you the link for this thing. The interest rate, 3 3/4%. They're amortized out to 30 years. It's not up to, it's just set for 30 years. You can pay it back early, all right? I would think you would. They are not attaching real estate and the collateral for this thing, okay? Up to $25,000, it's completely unsecured. The loan goes up to $2 million, collateralized only by the business property, all right? They're not looking for real estate on this thing. payments are going to be deferred for a year. Now, just like buying furniture, okay? You might not make any payments for a year, but the interest is going to be accruing. I want you to be aware of that. But again, no fees, and you can pay this thing off early. And again, we're going to dive into that as well. This is just kind of a top down. The next two up, the Express Bridge Loan Program and the Paycheck Protection Program, are programs at which you're going to apply at your local bank. All right, we're not going to the SBA for those. The SBA is back to its primary task of backing them, guaranteeing them. Okay, so the Express Bridge Loan Program, the idea is to get some faster money from your local bank while you wait for the EIDL loan to come in. All right, I want to be very frank about this and very open. I looked up the historical disaster loan amounts over the years, and they've ranged from $6 billion to about $9.5 billion. Okay, this one's $350 billion. They are seeing an unprecedented amount of traffic. Okay, those of you that have tried to apply online, you saw that. Those of you that called the 800 number and 500 online, you saw that. All right, so these bridge loans are an attempt by the SBA to get the local banks to fund you while you wait for the EIDL money to come in. They're up to 25 grand, very fast. Again, no collateral. The idea is that you are working with a bank with whom you have a relationship. It doesn't mean you have to have an SBA loan, but you are or have been in their loan portfolio. You do deposits there. They know you, okay? It's going to facilitate the process. The SBA is allowing banks to charge an application fee on this thing. The interest rate is prime, which is next to nothing right now, plus 6.5%. And again, we're going to dive in more fully. And then part of the CARES Act that was signed on Friday, the Paycheck Protection Program, is the one we're hearing a lot of questions about, and with good reason. Again, it's a bank loan, all right? You go into your bank. The idea of this is to cover your payroll costs, cover your mortgage payments, cover your bills, okay? But the big difference on this thing is it is 2.5 times the, the 4 was a legacy thing from the House, from the Senate bill, 2.5 times the monthly payroll costs, okay? And that can go up to $10 million. So if you're asking, well, which one of these should I do, the Express Bridge Loan Program or the Paycheck Protection? It depends on your needs, all right? Depends on how much you need to cover. Paycheck Protection Program can go up to $10 million. The other nice thing about the Paycheck Protection Program is the idea of that program is to keep people employed. If you keep your employees on the job, a portion of this loan could be forgiven, all right? So we're going to hear a couple of times about free money. And Jack, why don't we go to that free money slide? Because that's kind of important. All right, this is extraordinary. All right, I've been at this for over a dozen years. I've seen 3 grants in my tenure here. Okay, this is extraordinary. When you go through the application process, and we're going to show you that, there's a box on the top of the 5th screen. You check that, and you get a $10,000 advance. All right, now I was supposed to make this pretty. I didn't get too far. I just basically copied the law. You're going to self-certify on the first of those 5 pages. It's very easy. The amount's up to 10 grand. You can use it to pay sick leave, to pay payroll. If your supply chain has been interrupted and you have to go to another vendor and it costs you more, you can cover that. You can make your rent payments, your mortgage payments, you're paying your bills, okay? The last line is the extraordinary thing here. I'm just going to read it out. An applicant shall not be required to repay any amounts in advance provided under this subsection, even if subsequently denied a loan under the essentially the EIDL Act, okay? You apply for the economic injury disaster loan, you check the box, they send you $10,000 if you are just eligible as soon as possible. And if you get the EIDL loan, fantastic. If you don't, you're not paying this thing back, all right? So Jack, let's dive into the EIDL loan specifically. Yep, perfect. All right, so our advice with this regard, if your business has been impacted by this virus and you're eligible, and my God, like 98% of US businesses are eligible under the SBA size requirements, apply. Check the box on the 5th screen, which we'll show you for the $10,000. Some indications are as fast as 3 days. All right, now I would not hold my breath for 3 days, but it's going to be the first money out in this process, I guarantee you. And you're not going to be required to pay this back. Overall, on the EIDL loans, apply. If the virus duration is shorter than what we're anticipating and you don't need as much, you can, and they offer you an amount, they offer you 100,000, you think 50 is enough, you don't have to take the entire 50. If you get faster money, you get freer money, you don't have to accept a loan at all, okay? If you take the 50 grand and then, wow, things are bad and we're in this for a while and you need to reach out and grab the other 50 to get up to your 100, you have 2 years to do that, all right? And if the 100 isn't enough, you can go back and ask for more money. All right. We hope that's not the case. There are a lot of options here. Jack, would you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. This, oh my gosh. So resource partners throughout the country were writing fabulous instructions for how to apply for this thing. And then Saturday there was a portal with a drag and drop, which worked really well. And I went in to make some notes on that last night, and by golly, we got a brand new portal, but it is slick. All right. It is fast. It is essentially 5 screens. The first one is really just eligibility requirements. You're just verifying that you're eligible under the size standards. You're not selling, a few things that the SBA doesn't want you to sell. Okay. Jack, one more slide, please. The other 3 in the middle, very straightforward. I went through kind of mocked up from numbers from my old business. I didn't sign the thing because I don't have the business anymore, and I don't look good in stripes, so I didn't actually apply. But I went through the entire process. They're asking about what's your business structure, an LLC, a partnership, sole proprietor, corporation, who owns it, where it is, the business address, residential address, your revenues last year, revenues this year, cost of goods sales. All right, now if you don't know cost of goods sales, work with your accountant, and then come on in and work with us, and we'll explain why that was kind of a necessary thing for you to know. All right. But that's about as far as the financials as you need to get into this thing. Number of employees pre and post virus, again, some eligibility questions, very straightforward. I went through this thing again and maybe took me 10 or 15 minutes. Jack, please move forward on there. All right, this is the 5th screen. This is the good news screen right at the top in my red drawing there. I would like to be considered for an advance of up to $10,000. Where to send the funds? Give them your bank and your account, your routing number. They will plop $10,000 into that as long as you are eligible, and they're going to do it quickly. All right. And again, by reading of our law 748, signed on Friday, you're not paying it back. This is the first free money we've seen. All right. Jack, advance the slide, please. All right. So some tips. Please do apply. We are going to send the link out there. Okay, the old links that we sent out to apply still redirect to this one, but this is the latest one. You can mail the forms in. You want to download them and mail them. We've checked this address. There is an 800 number. There is perhaps the worst named email address I've ever seen in my life. Okay, disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. I can't imagine McDonald's having, my burger was called at mcdonalds.com, but they went forward for this thing. But disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. The thing here is the people that are answering the phone, that are working the computers, can actually see your application. Okay, so if there's something that needs to be fixed or something that needs to be amended or appended, you can do it. Jack, please move forward. Thanks, sir. All right, so our tips continue. Apply now if you've been impacted, all right? There is no blank or box on the application where you have an ask, where you have a request. The SBA is calculating the amount of the impact based on 2 formulas, which are very, very similar. Either half of your gross profits for the year or 6 months of fixed cost. I mean, it's apples and oranges, really, really close on that. They're relaxing credit. They have not shared a number on there, but it's supposed to be relaxed vis-a-vis bank loans. Now, our advice, okay? Having worked with the SBA for many, many years, having worked with many banks, the application is likely not enough to process a loan amount, all right? I would at least be familiar with the same records that were required in the application process last week. That would include your tax transcripts request, the IRS 4506Ts in Thomas, okay? That is for the SBA to get your tax returns from the government. Personal financial statements, Form 413D is in David. They want to see what you own and what you owe. Schedule of liabilities, Form 2022. They want to see, again, your debts out there. And, have your tax returns for the business and individual ready. Have your profit and loss statements from last year and year to date now in case you need to prove impact. Jack, forward, please. Okay. Next up, we have the Express Bridge loans. These are designed to be while you wait for the economic injury disaster loans to come in. Again, you're going to be working with your banker. In the KC Metro, we've got a link here, and we're going to be sending it out of the SBA Express lenders in the area. You can get that from your SBA office. You do not have to apply now, okay? So the example is if you're a marina and your impact is not going to happen until June or July when people aren't on boats and partying on the lake, you can wait to apply. You've got 6 months to apply. The idea with these is that you are working with an SBA Express lender with whom you have a relationship. It does not have to be an SBA loan. but you've been in their loan portfolio, you are now, you have deposits there, but they can get you up to $25,000. It's 50% backed by the U.S. government, so that should help them make that loan. And once the economic injury disaster loan comes in, you pay them back. If you are denied the economic injury disaster loan, this becomes a 7-year note, all right? But cheap interest. The banks they're allowed by the SBA to impose an application fee. They have their own forms to apply for this. You're still going to need your tax transcripts, your profit and loss, your tax return, personal financial statements, the same stuff you would for any loan. This is a bank loan. And Jack, one more slide. And then this is a good one. Okay, this is part of the CARES Act, and this is what we're getting a lot of questions, and it's been a lot of press. This may, and May is bold, underlined, and italicized up there. Maybe some more of that free money that we've been hearing. Again, you're going to be working with a bank. Okay, you're going to a bank for this, not directly to the SBA. You bring them your payroll records. The loan is calculated at 2.5 months of payroll, but as opposed to the express loan, which goes up to $25,000, this goes up to $10 million. All right. So choosing between the two is going to be based on your needs. All right. You're going to have a much bigger concern with this. 2.5 months of payroll and expenses can be up to $10 million. And again, it covers payroll, healthcare, the bills. Okay. Debt service. They are not interested. My reading of this bill, they are not interested in covering anyone that makes over 100 grand. I think their feeling is anyone that makes over 100 grand can fend for themselves. The loan is amortized out to 10 years, 4% interest. If you keep your people employed, some or all of this loan is going to be forgiven, or may be forgiven is the way the law is written. So again, a lot of advantages, a much higher maximum, and some or all may be forgiven. Jack, I think I've got one more. Okay, so just to sum this all up, if your business has been impacted, injured, apply for the EIDL, apply for the economic injury disaster loan. By all means, my God, click the box on the 5th screen for the $10,000, okay? And this is the link. That 10 grand, by our reading of the law, you're not going to be required to pay it back. If you need faster money in addition to that, go to your bank, talk to your bank. The express bridge loan, up to 25 grand, you pay it off when the EIDL comes in. The payroll protection plan, up to $10 million, and some or all of that loan amount might be forgiven if you keep your people employed. I'm going to turn it over to Jack Harwell. Jack, God bless him, and we should all thank him. The dude read over 880 pages of law this weekend and distilled it into some slides for you. So Jack is up next. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, John. And before I get started, just to remind everybody, we have a Q&A box. Some of you have been chatting, giving us questions, but if you could put those questions in the Q&A box. And if you have a question that you see in there, just click on the thumbs up and you'll vote, and that'll move that question to the top of the list, and those will be ones that we address first. So talking about other federal assistance, the first assistance that came out was the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. That's actually a requirement of employers to pay sick pay and certain family leave payments. The business will be reimbursed 100% through a tax credit. And the sick leave is 2 weeks pay. The FMLA is 10 weeks. There are certain cases where that applies. Again, this is a requirement. It starts April 2nd. And you should have a poster that you can post in your office or online, I suppose, at this point, or email to your employees if they're not in the building, to let them know of this right that they have. But it's good for the business because it gives you a chance to help your employees with some money that can be reimbursed or will be reimbursed by the government. The second item is within the CARES Act. It increases unemployment insurance. So it's additional unemployment insurance for your employees. Again, it's not something that helps you directly, but it helps your employees, helps them keep viable, and hopefully when this thing winds down, they'll be ready to come back to work. It applies to all beneficiaries, anybody who's eligible for unemployment, but it also adds self-employed individuals. We have a link some links in the back of the presentation where you can get more information on this. So that what the act does is it adds $600 per week for 4 months to the unemployment insurance amount that your employees will receive. It also extends unemployment 13 weeks through the year, and it removes any waiting periods. The CARES Act Employee Retention Credit is designed to offset payroll costs of your retained employees. So if you keep your employees, this will help offset some of those payroll costs. If your operation is suspended or your gross receipts are below 50%, you can receive a credit equal to half of your payroll costs in the affected quarters through 2020. Another bill inside the CARES Act is delayed Social Security payroll tax payments. Again, that's to improve your cash flow. So all of your 2020 Social Security payments due, so the payments that you make on behalf of your employees will be delayed. The deadline's delayed, so you pay half of it December 31st this year and half of it December 31st next year. Another item in the CARES Act is relief for existing loans. And this is something that you should ask your lender about. So this, you work with your lender, and it's essentially a forgiveness of your loan payments. And that's 2 months payments. And the decision should be made within 60 days for that payment. The amount that will be paid for you will be the principal, interest, and fees, and it's based on costs that you incur. So again, talk to your banker about that one if you have a loan, an existing loan. And then on the state level, the unemployment assistance out of the Kansas Department of Labor, I wanted to make you aware of a couple of programs they have. One's called Shared Work. The idea is that you could do a partial layoff of your employees by reducing their work hours from 20 to 40%. And if you do that with at least 10% of your employees, the unemployment benefit will match the reduction. In other words, if you, let's say you have an employee and you're going to put them on half time, so they work half the amount of time they normally work, then they can go ahead and get unemployment for the other half of their time. So it's not an all or nothing thing with unemployment. We can share work week with the employer and unemployment. And then the last thing, spreadsheet filing is recommended by the Kansas Department of Labor. It's more efficient for both parties, and it gets you access to the administrator through direct communications. So those are some other assistance that we've identified. Again, we're not giving you a lot of detail. This webinar would have to go on half the day if we did. But we want you to be aware of these things and to know to seek out the information. Okay, so we've shared with you some of the benefits and some of the relief packages that have been passed. And now we want to talk about just generally. So we recommend everybody get your financial statements in order. The last 3 years of income tax returns, P&L, and balance sheet. And personal financial statement, which includes the income, your assets, and your liabilities. And that's for all of your income, all your assets, and all your liabilities on a personal level. Second, as John mentioned, going to reinforce that, apply for the EIDL loan immediately. You don't have to take it. You can repay it early. And even if you don't qualify, you have to qualify, but even if you don't get approval for the loan, you can get up to $10,000 advance within 3 days at no, and you don't have to pay it back. So to me, that is the most immediate relief that you could seek. Next, we recommend that you build a cash flow plan so you know when or if you're going to run out of money. And then when thinking about your employees, it's a subtle difference, but think about furloughing your employees instead of a layoff. A furlough implies a short-term situation where you'll call them back. They can probably get extended unemployment, and you may get government funds to cover your payroll, as John outlined. So some tips for operating your business. As I mentioned, build a cash flow plan. We recommend a minimum of 13 weeks. It will help you determine how much funds you need and when you will run out. But be realistic about your sales during this period. Some people's sales have dropped significantly. Some people's sales have dropped totally. Some have actually grown if you happen to be in an industry that reflects that. But whatever your situation, be realistic. Don't be optimistic when analyzing your cash flow. And then review all your bills and contact your landlord, your banker, your vendor, anybody that you owe money, and ask for more time to pay. But do it in an empathetic way, understand that they're going through the same things that we're going through. And so you want to keep communicating, don't burn your bridges, but see if there's any relief they can provide you. Some landlords are being proactive and providing that relief already. For the cash flow plan, I've put together a step-by-step process. And of course, we can always help small businesses who want to register or become clients with the SBDC. But step one, figure out how much cash you have available. Count up all of the available cash that you have, all your accounts, and then add up all your bills and payments that you owe right now and subtract that to get a net cash available amount. The second step would be to take that net cash and then subtract all of your 13-week period, and that'll help you identify what is your gap in funds. Step three, really need to get a handle on what's your burn rate. And in the case of a 13-week plan, take all those future expenses, divide it by 3 months, and you'll get an average monthly expenses, which is your burn rate. And then step four, figure out how much time you have, take your net cash available, divide it by your burn rate, and that'll tell you how much time you have before you'll run out of cash. I've put together a little example of that. In this example, I start with $2,800 available cash, but I owe $1,500 in bills immediately. So my net cash available is $1,300. To understand what my gap in funds is, I take that $1,300 net cash available, subtract $2,400, which is all of my future expenses that I see coming in the next 3 months. And then I realize that I have a gap of $1,100 in my funding. To figure out my burn rate, take those future expenses over the next 3 months, divide by 3 months, and that tells you my burn rate, which is $800 a month in this case. And then to figure out how much time I have, take that net cash available of $1,300, divide by the monthly burn rate of 800, and that tells me I have a little over a month and a half to scramble, get more cash, and that gives me plenty of time to go get that $10,000 that John talked about. Other tips, I will hand that over to Stephanie to cover for you.
Thanks, Jack, for hitting on those very important tips. I mean, and managing your cash flow is definitely one of them. As we go through this entire presentation and what we've been living through in the past few weeks, I mean, everything is changing and there is a new norm, which makes surviving this temporary time and preparing for the end of it so very important. So we're going to touch a little deeper on the cash thing to start with, and then hit some other areas that are really important as business owners to focus on during this crisis. Slide. So cash is king. This is the first part on here is understanding your break even, and we want to definitely make sure we get to some of these Q&As. So I'm not going to read every one of these. I'm just going to hit on some highlighting a few. So break even is really important because it lets you know how much sales or units you need to cover your minimum expenses, which is that burn rate that Jack just kind of talked about. So to calculate your break even, you need to divide those fixed expenses by your gross margin. And your gross margin is your sell price minus your cost of goods. So that will help you to understand what that break even is. So an example of that is if you have $100,000 in fixed expenses to cover your rent, insurance, all those various things that you have to pay, no matter whether you sell one piece or deliver 1 hour of service or 50,000 of them. Those are your fixed expenses. And then if you sell something for that service or product for $50 and it costs you $12.50, then you've made $37.50 per unit, which your gross profit then is 25%. So if you took that 100,000 divided by that 25%, you would need $400,000 is your break even to cover those fixed expenses. So working through that is really critical. We own a small quick lube in Ottawa, and that was one of the first things that my husband did was to go through his break even so we could kind of figure out what our strategy was and plan of action. And to help with the cash flow tool that down the bottom here is Finagraph. They're offering a free cash flow tool, and it's really great, but that can help you. And then, of course, there's some premium resources available. Jack? Part of understanding those fixed expenses then is to ensure you've evaluated all of your expenses, eliminating any unnecessary spending, and even looking at your marketing. You know, what can be put on hold right now? For example, direct mail, some of those types of things. But what do you need to keep doing so that you keep yourself in front of your audience? And we're going to talk a little bit about marketing in just a moment. Looking at your product and supply chain, there's a really good article online about McDonald's and some of the changes that they've made. And one of the things that they did temporarily was to eliminate breakfast. And that helped them to not only increase their margin, but streamline their supply chain and production because breakfast is less expensive and it typically has less margin. And by eliminating those, by eliminating them, you contributed more margin by delivering just the lunch and dinner items. And because those items weren't in their production, now they were able to focus on just fewer items. And as John mentioned, and we've all kind of talked about, there is no end date to this as we know right now. I mean, we will get back to normal, but better to plan for long-term than short-term. If life and business go back to normal before that, fantastic. Then you'll be ahead of the game. As leaders and business owners, I mean, our goal or your goal is to maximize trust and to minimize stress, and to be a role model for your employees to look to as they struggle through their own decision-making in life. And in order to do that, I mean, as a business owner, you need to be transparent. You need to speak to the reality. Don't, rose-colored glasses and be all positive, but you want to speak to that reality, but then also do give them some encouragement and help them through it. Another thing is to have a two-way communication with them. I mean, with all this isolation, people want to know that they're being heard. And finally, it's a great time to work on some special projects. Clean and organize your workplace. And also I put in there, to take some time on your marketing, like website and social media. And I'll have you go to slide. Verizon has reported that there's been a 20% increase in week-over-week online traffic, web traffic. So people are staying at home, they are surfing a lot, and they're using social media to stay in touch. And so because of that, you too should be staying in touch with your customers. This slide talks a lot about the tone and information about the content. Predominantly, the world is isolated, so you need to make sure that your tone is empathetic and it's reflective of this new norm. Photos of crowds should probably not be included. And then this whole, looking too professional. You're seeing everybody. I mean, we watched CBS Sunday this morning yesterday, and the guy was in a baseball hat and his cat kept running in front of the screen. So people are liking that as part of just staying in touch and being relatable. People need people, basically. It's a great time for you to let your customers know get to know your company at a really at a different level. So let your employees generate some content. Maybe do some live streaming. I know a fitness group that I work out with, they've created some challenges and we're trying, just to try to keep us engaged. and to get us off the couch or our chairs sometimes is also good. But keep social media and email marketing during this time to a manner that's sustainable. I mean, since you're at home, yeah, you might be wanting to be sent out all these messages, but when this life goes back to normal and you can't keep that up and you disappear, then that's going to impact the rapport and the trust you have with your customer base. But using your brand authenticity to not only nurture your existing customers and followers, but to bring in new sources of leads and contacts. On the slide. So that's what this kind of speaks to, is building your rapport and creating these relationships. It's a great time to take this opportunity to reinforce your customer habits and, you know, get in front of your competition. Maybe not everybody's thinking the way we're trying to talk to you. So it's a great time to learn from your customers. That helps with future messaging and marketing. And you can do that by sending out a survey. Also asking for testimonials. People have a big heart right now. I don't know if when you're out for a walk, I mean, more people are saying hi to me than I've met more people in my neighborhood in the past week and a half than I have in the 10 years I've lived here. So it's been pretty cool from that perspective. So ask people to help you out and gather emails and make sure you respond quickly. Again, people need to be, they're looking for this interaction. So if they're giving you their email, they expect you to get back in touch with them quickly. And personalizing your emails. That means segmenting, like if you're creating lists, which you should be, segmenting your list based on whether it's your personas or your targets, what their goals are. If they're if they're looking to purchase something now, purchase something in the next 3 months, maybe based on their size or based on their location. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can segment your lists. And a good way to do that is by using some sort of CRM or client relationship management system. Many of them are free out there. We use Zoho. There's also HubSpot. We use that for a lot of great information. So look into, if you don't already have a CRM. And then I was reading the other day that's online, about greater than 75% of carts are abandoned right now. Again, people are searching, they're shopping, but they're not closing because they're continuing to fill their time looking for other things. So this is a great opportunity to re-engage those people, send out an email to them and have them finish that order. Give them a discount, maybe some free shipping, something like that. And next. And finally, I don't know if anybody saw Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank on the morning show the other day, but she said a good entrepreneur will try everything. And that's basically what this is a great time to do. Do some testing, you know, whether you're testing emails, testing landing pages, testing the way you're doing business. I mean, I went the other day to Best Buy and the guy came out to my car with my product, which was awesome. He respected my space by not coming inside the window. And it was truly, you know, first of all, it was great to get out and drive, but it was a great experience for me. Many of our restaurants have changed from like individual services to family style takeout. So, you know, we've ordered multiple times, you know, so that we can feed our whole family, and I'm supporting our small businesses. And, you know, and that's basically it. Small businesses, you guys are the backbone of this country, and we're definitely going to make it through it, but it's really cool to see all the momentum and all the support of small business. So I know we've covered a lot today, and things are definitely changing every single minute. I mean, we've talked as a group so much in the past few days because it's like, hey, did you see this? Did you see this? So we're trying to work through that for you, so you don't have to be on a ton of webinars or look through all this information yourself. So if you look at our Kansas SBDC COVID resource link there, we're continuing to update that. Also, of course, the agencies have some good sites in your local chambers. They all have good resources that can help you through it. One specific webinar that's coming up that we would recommend is actually walking you through the process of completing the EIDL loan. And so there's a link that we have right there for that. And before we get into question and answers, and it looks like we have about 15 minutes, we may go longer if anybody wants to stay on. You know, we at the SBDC would like to thank you all, you know, for your time today, and also let you know that we are here to help. The next slide is a link. If you're not already a client working with us, please don't hesitate to sign up. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. And so please take that opportunity to do so. Slide there, Jack. So, so we have about, like I said, about 15 minutes to answer some of your questions that you guys have been submitting and voting on. We will be answering all questions. And Jessica said, we will be sending out the answers to all the questions, as well as, I think, like the link to the video of this conference, if you want to send it to other people, as well as the presentation. So, Jack, I'm going to turn it back to you to moderate this Q&A session.
Stephanie, actually, I'm going to take over.
Oh,
so.
sorry, Jessica.
That's okay. That's okay. John has been very proactive during this presentation and has already responded to about 10 of your questions out there. So looks like we have 22 additional questions. So while Jack, John, and Stephanie are going to raise their hands to start answering those questions, I'm going to kind of go through those 10 with you real quick. So the top question is, can you apply for both the EIDL and the Payroll Protection Program, or do you have to pick one? Our understanding is there will be no duplicate payments, so the EIDL would be reduced by the amount you receive from other sources, such as the Payment Protection Program. The second question, how does this work if someone is self-employed? Are they still eligible for an EIDL? You can certainly be a sole proprietor and apply for the EIDL. Yes, apply. Third question, if you already applied for the disaster loan and there was not a box to check for the $10,000 grant, how do I modify such now? We understand, the answer is we understand the mechanism for this will be up on Wednesday. So yes, the guidance is that if you have already applied for the EIDL, you will go back into that application, and while you're not applying for the EIDL, you will be checking the box saying you would like to request the advance, and that's the current guidance we have as of now. Fourth question, if you already applied for the disaster loan and there was not a box, I think that's that's the question I just read, my mistake. One of my employees has decided not to come to work because his elderly mother, the questions are jumping around, lives with him and he does not want to rush her health. Is this covered under the employment grant? Answer, if you are keeping them employed, my thinking would be yes, but if they are furloughed or laid off, this bill has relaxed requirements for unemployment insurance. If you don't hire them back, that portion of the payroll protection plan will not be forgiven. Next question, can you just apply for the payroll protection program and the $10,000 emergency grant since both are forgivable? Our understanding is yes. If you get the EIDL, the full loan, the amount will likely be reduced by the payroll protection plan. Next question, one of my employees has decided not to come to work. I guess that is the same question. On the payroll protection program, wages for 250%, can owner's income be included? The answer, our understanding is if an owner was listed on the payroll, such as in a corporation, they would be included in the equation with the exception noted of salaries over $100,000. Your bank may have additional insight. Remember, you're going to your bank for this loan and the SBA is backing it 100%. The payroll protection program is a program that will be administered through your bank. Next question, I applied for the EIDL last week. Should I apply again? Answer, the SBA will have a mechanism up slated by what we're hearing as of Wednesday for this situation. If you had to do the 5 screens that was discussed previously, it will take approximately 10 minutes if you had a decent handle on what you've already submitted. We will keep everyone in the loop whenever that option is available. Next question, when does the Family First Coronavirus Response Act take effect? What's the first day wages covered? Answer, April 1st. Note that this act first requires the employer to pay for leave with credits to pay the employer back. This is a different program from the SBA funding options. And last of the answer questions, does this apply to nonprofit organizations? For the EIDL, yes, nonprofits get better interest rates on EIDL loans even. Okay, so now we're going to go to the top questions. And the first question is, can we obtain a copy of this presentation once complete? I'm interested in copies of the slides. Thanks. Jack?
Sorry about that. Yes, we will be sending an email to everyone who registered for this event with a copy of the slides and a link to the video of the presentation.
Thank you. The next question. Under the Payroll Protection Program, it may be forgiven if employees remain employed. When will we know if it will or will not be forgiven? If employees are furloughed, will that be acceptable or count against the business when determining if a loan is forgiven? Jack? Jack, I think you are muted.
Sorry. It's still unclear whether and what amount or how to calculate the forgiveness on the Payroll Protection Program. That's something that we'll hopefully get more information about and share with you later. If the employees are furloughed and not laid off, in other words, if you're just ceasing their participation in the business and sending them home and not laying them off permanently, then as we understand it, those will be costs when you pay them or benefits that they get. That will be considered when they look at the forgiveness of your loan. I hope that was clear enough.
Thank you. Next question. Will employer percentage rates go up for unemployment claims related to COVID-19? Jack.
Yeah, that good question. We have that question, but we don't have the answer to that yet. Just not clear at this point.
Thank you. Next question. Where do you designate furlough or layoff? Jack.
So I've done a little research on the difference between furlough and layoff, and that might be state by state different. I don't see anything that clarifies if that's a legal term or not, but it's certainly a furlough implies temporary. So in your language, as you're you're filling out a form for relief, or you're talking to anyone about what you're doing, your employees included, just talk about it in terms of a furlough versus a layoff and just reinforce that it's temporary.
Thank you. Next question. Are landlords eligible for EIDL? The question, no, there it is. Jack?
We don't have an answer to that right now. One thing I should mention is we will be sending a list of the Q&A, and we will, for those answers that we don't have today, we will put those in that Q&A session that we send out.
Thank you. We have one jump up. Question. Can you pay employees that traditionally make over $100,000 some money out of the loan, just not over the $100,000 amount?
John, do you know that one?
I
John.
do, and I've got the whole House resolution up on my screen, and it's a little squishy on that, I must say. What they're basically saying, as far as I read it, is they don't want that in the formula to determine the loan request amount. That's the best way I can read this thing. So it doesn't factor into that 2.5. You can pay them, but it's not going to factor in the amount that the SBA loans you for this.
Thank you. Can you apply for both the EIDL loan as well as the paycheck loan, or can you just apply for one? I believe we answered that in another question, in that you can apply for both, but the EIDL loan, it may reduce the amount you receive for one or the other. And they are separate. The paycheck protection plan will come from your lending institution, and the EIDL loan comes directly from the SBA. Next question, what's the difference between furloughing an employee versus laying them off? I believe that was, Jack has
already
answered that question. Yes.
Yep.
Move on to the next. Seems like a similar question on the Payroll Protection Care Act. Are salaries over $100,000 totally exempt, or can you cover those salaries up to $100,000? And we'll keep you posted on additional language on that. Next question, how long does it take to get the funds once you fill the paperwork out? Jack?
So for the $10,000, that is an advance on the EIDL loan. They're saying 3 days after requested. We're hearing from the SBA, the EIDL loan itself might take 3 to 4 weeks. That was their estimate late last week. That could have gone out longer, but they're working hard to keep it within 3 to 4 weeks. As far as the other benefits, they're still too new to really gauge the speed at which that process will work.
Thank you. Does the work share program cover overtime if we have to cut our employees to 40 hours only? Jack?
I think, Mike, you're referring to the Kansas Department of Labor unemployment work share. I don't have the answer to that. I would recommend you go to that website. There's a link in the back of the presentation, and see if you can reach someone and ask that question. My suspicion is that it's going to be just straight time, but that's just my suspicion.
Thank you. Next question about the shared work program as well. Does the shared work unemployment benefit get charged back to your business unemployment account? Jack?
Again, that's kind of related to the question, will the unemployment benefits get charged back to the business? Don't know, but we'll try to get that answer for you.
Next question. If you have a new business started this year and you have yet to file taxes and have no tax history, what relief do you have? John?
Our guidance, this came up on the SBA calls last week, and they said they were going to do it on a case-by-case basis. So by all means, and by the way, I want this answer to work for the landlord that had a question as well. The SBA's response was apply, and they'll sort it out. So in both cases, go to the EIDL application link that we forwarded, and the eligibility requirements are right there, and it'll get you through. So if it's new business, apply, and then the loan officer will contact you.
Thank you. Next question. On the Kansas Shared Work Program, if we file as a 30% reduction and ends up being closer to 40%, can we adjust, or are we stuck with the initial filing? Jack, do you happen to know as far as applying to the Shared Work Program?
I don't know, but looks like I have a task to go learn about that shared work program and unemployment insurance.
Next question. Is a business required to pay FMLA under the Family First Act if business is not subject to FMLA as written previously? Business does not have more than 50 employees and a 75-mile radius. Jack?
It's my understanding all small businesses have to comply and are required to pay FMLA under the Family First Act for those specific reasons called out in that act. There is an opportunity for a business less than 50 employees to appeal or request a waiver. Not clear on how that process will work and how many people will do it, but you will be reimbursed through tax credits So one way to deal with that, because I understand there's going to be a cash flow issue because the payment reimbursement is going to come later. That's where that $10,000 advance on your EIDL could come into play to help you manage your cash flow.
Thank you. Next question. If I uploaded my application for EIDL since the online was not available, should I sign up again now that the online is available? I'm not sure if I clearly understand. If you've already submitted for EIDL in paper form, then you've already submitted. However, you have not put in the submission for the $10,000 grant yet if you've submitted in paper form. So Wednesday, we're anticipating that that should be available for processing, and you can go back in and apply for that $10,000 advance. John, was there anything you'd like to add?
No, you nailed it. That was the Wednesday thing. They're getting the mechanism in place for people that have already applied to come back and check that box essentially for the $10,000.
Oh, great. Next question. How does the payroll protection program apply to partnerships since the refunds cannot come via payroll taxes? John?
Yeah, that's there are a lot of programs. I mean, Jack was talking about some of the ones that that came out of credits. Remember, the payroll protection program is a loan, it's not a credit kind of thing. It might be forgiven, all right, but it's not a tax credit situation.
Okay, thank you. I do want to point out we are at 11 o'clock. We're going to keep going for about 15 more minutes to answer these questions if you'd like to stay on the line, but we are mindful that everybody has busy days and don't want to keep you. This recording will be made available, and the transcripts for the questions will also be made available if you're not able to stay with us. So next question. Can you apply if you have a part-time business that is not your primary source of revenue but has been impacted?
Just be aware that the Congress has been very mindful of gig economy or gig workers, self-employed, solopreneurs. They have tried to write into, or they've written into a lot of the bills that wording that could cover those folks. What I would recommend is you apply. The answer is yes, apply. They will let you know if you're qualified after you apply, but my understanding is that gig workers, part-time businesses can receive benefit from these programs.
And I just lost the next question. If you have a Kansas business with an employee who works remotely from another state, can you still utilize the shared work program?
Well, it looks like I'm going to learn a lot about unemployment insurance. My guess is no, but let me check it out and we'll get that answer to you in our Q&A report.
Next question. Do I need to reapply on this new portal? I have heard nothing and the $10,000 was not part of the original form. Colleen, yes, you will need to reapply for that $10,000 grant. Our understanding is that will be operational on Wednesday. So just stay posted for more details of when that is up and running. But yes, you will need to reapply. Next question. I expect to keep them employed after this. I'm not sure if that's a question.
I think that's a follow-up to another question that we've answered.
Okay, okay. Does this apply to partnerships? I'm not sure quite what that's referring to.
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes. Most of these all these programs that I've looked at do apply to partnerships. How you apply is different, depends on the program. So certainly reach out, look for those resources, or sign up as an employee and we'll get the answer for you. Or sign up as register as a client, sorry.
Next question. What if employees quit between now and the forgiveness deadline? If we replace them, I assume we are okay.
I think whatever happens, as long as you're retaining the employee and you've paid them, I believe that would be part of the package that you would get relief on.
Can you apply if you're a sole proprietor and most of your expenses are your own salary? Jack?
Yeah, again, most of these programs do support sole proprietorships, so encourage you to apply.
Next question. What are other questions in the application for EIDL? John?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have screenshots because I was putting my own information in there and didn't think it was a smart idea to share my social security number. You can go in there and mock up the process and get through the end. Like I said, I didn't hit submit on that thing. They were really basic. Again, it was sales, cost of goods, addresses. It was, if you have any kind of handle on your business and financials, it's a 10-minute process. Again, if you can't come up with a P&L for last year, you're gonna have a little bit of trouble answering that, but otherwise it was very straightforward.
Thank you. Next question. Can you apply for 2 different loans through 2 different companies if one company is for your office space and other one is for employees? Jack?
That's my understanding. Everything I've seen, each business is treated separately.
Thank you. Next question. What if we do not already have a relationship with one of the SBA approved lenders? For example, if my credit union is not on the list. John?
Here's a scoop. You can certainly apply, but it's a bank loan. They don't know you. They're only getting a 50% guarantee by the U.S. government. So you don't have a relationship with a banker. And I mean, that comes up in our startup classes, that even if you don't need any money right now, it's a good idea to start working with somebody. And this is a perfect case study for that. You can certainly apply. I'm not as confident in the loan being approved by a banker.
Okay. Final question. I moved to an LLC on July 1st, 2019. Basically, I went from a sole proprietorship to an LLC. Otherwise, my business has remained the same. How would that impact my application? John?
I don't think it would impact it one bit. The IRS doesn't they call an LLC a disregarded entity, a sole proprietor, and a one-person LLC are taxed the same. The first blank on the first box on the first page of the very streamlined application is applicant is a business with not more than 500 employees. So it's you'd still be fine. By all means, apply.
Great. Okay. Well, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. Hopefully we've brought some clarity to these very heavy regulations that have come into play. Please reach out if you have any other questions. Utilize the resources that we've laid out. The transcripts for all the Q&As will become available. The recording will be available, and we'll send an email out to all participants once those are available within 24 to 48 hours. Thank you again, and everybody, and have a wonderful day.